Welcome to this lecture, which is how to enter text into a cell. In this lecture, you will learn how you can activate a cell in Excel 2010 for editing. You will also learn how you can enter text into a cell and explore how you can use the Excel formula bar to enter text rather than just typing it directly into a cell. And finally, at the end of this lecture, you will find out how you can close a cell for editing. Okay, after you start Excel 2010 on your computer, it's time you start entering the information. But wait, have you ever really thought, why would you use a spreadsheet program like Excel 2010? The answer to that question is, mostly you use a spreadsheet program like Excel 2010 to enter information of some kind. Or in other words, you can say that you store data into a spreadsheet. You enter information into a spreadsheet program so that you can perform calculations on it. In order to understand it better, let's take an example. Just take a look at the following figure. And let's say there's this teacher who wants to record the attendance of his students in his class. And for this purpose, he might think that instead of using a pen and a paper to record the student information, he should really use the Excel 2010 program on his computer to store and analyze the student attendance information. Obviously, that is a great idea. So what he does, he opens Microsoft Excel on his computer and begins to type in the student name, date, and the status. The status is which marks the student either absent or present. And he does this in 3 separate columns. And let's say he types in the first student name as James and the date as 23rd March 2010 and the status as present. And in the same way, he types in the next student name as Ruby and the date again as 23rd March 2010 and the status as present. Next, he types in the student name as Roger with the same date and the status as absent. And finally, he types in the last student name as Catherine with the date again as 23rd March 2010 and the status as present. And let's say the teacher then routinely follows this process to record the student attendance day after day. But if you notice, he entered the information without specifying the headings for each column. So only he is the one who knows that the first column of his Excel worksheet contains the student name, and the next one contains the date, and the third and the final one contains the status. Now let's say you were the one to take a look at the student attendance record. Do you really think you would be able to figure out what the spreadsheet is all about? I guess you would, but that may take you a little time, and you will begin to understand his worksheet only after you figure out that he has divided the information into 3 columns, wherein the first column contains the student name, the second one contains the date, and the third one contains the status, that is whether a student was present or absent for a particular day. So now after we review the information, don't you think that his Excel worksheet can be modified so that it's easier to understand? Yes, you will definitely agree to that. And the teacher could have done that by typing in the column heading to define the purpose of each column. In his worksheet, he could have started out by typing in the column headings in the first row of his worksheet so as to organize his information into manageable pieces, which would have greatly reduced the time to understand and analyze the information contained within his Excel worksheet. And let's say you now do that for him. So what do? You just simply insert a row right before this information, and you start typing in the heading as first name, date, and status. And you also make the column headings bold so that they stand out on the worksheet. As you can now see, the worksheet is now easier to understand and analyze. The purpose of this example was basically to make you understand that although you would primarily use Excel to enter numbers and perform calculations on them, but you would also use Excel to store text of some kind, so that you define the data in your Excel worksheet in order to make it easier for you and others to understand and analyze the data in your worksheet. Okay, now let's see how you can enter text into a cell. And I guess you may already have figured that out by following this lecture, but let me just go ahead and still introduce it formally. So once you start Excel, let me just first get rid of this information here. So after you open Excel, simply click on a cell to activate it. And let's say you click on this one. And you will know that you can now type into the cell because Excel will mark the current cell by surrounding it with a thick black border, as you can see here. Therefore, the moment you click on a cell, Excel basically opens it for editing. And let's say you type in the text as Hello Excel 2010. You can also press the F2 functional key on the keyboard to activate a cell for editing. Next, if you take a closer look at this worksheet, you will notice that your text also appears in the Excel formula bar. Therefore, this means when you click a cell to activate it, you can also type in your text directly into the formula bar rather than just typing it into the cell. And as you can see, they both have the same effect. Let me just show you that. So let's say if I click on this one, and instead of just typing in the text directly in here in this cell, I'm going to type in the text in the formula bar. So let's say I type in hello again. As you can see, the text now appears in the cell. And that is how simple it is to enter text in Excel. You can follow either way, or you can simply click on a cell and just start typing in the text, or you can just click on a cell and type in your text in the formula bar. They both have the same effect. Okay, finally, in order to close a cell for editing, you can simply hit the Enter key on the keyboard. So the moment you type in something in a cell, let's say you type in John, in order to close it for editing, simply hit the Enter key on the keyboard. And as you can see, pressing the Enter key will move the selection to the cell right underneath the current cell. If you don't want that to be the case, simply press the Control-Enter key combination on the keyboard. So if I was in this cell, I'm going to press the Control and the Enter key. That simply closes the cell for editing and doesn't really move the selection either below or above the current cell. And moreover, you can also move the cell selection to either right, left, above, or below the current cell by hitting the appropriate cursor key on the keyboard. That is, pressing the right cursor key will move the cell selection to the right of the current cell. So if I press the right cursor key here, the selection now moves to the right of the current cell. And if I were to press the left cursor key, the selection will move to the left of the current cell, and so on.